All right, so part 3, mysticisms about the hair, sons of God, daughters of gods, and sons of man, why it all relates. Now, also in listening to this, as the Bible wrote about the gods, sons of gods coming down and being defiled by women, on the other side of the coin, women, I don't want y'all to take offense to these words because the same teachings were preserved to you. You can find them in Egypt. There's an area called Nag Hammadi. These Egyptians, which were similar to the Essene Brotherhood, they preserved 13 tablets that were hidden in caves. Why were they hidden in caves? Well, probably so that they would not fall into the wrong hands. So this concept of falling was preserved also for the woman. There were tablets that spoke on the sons of goddesses, or the daughters of gods who fell. And when they fell into the hands of wanton men who wanted nothing for them but to defile them, commit adultery, and use them. And if you know anything of the concept of power and monarchy, a pharaoh, a emperor or an empress or a leader, to preserve their family, they must stay within their bloodline. So in the Bible, it speaks about when the sons of God came down, they forsake themselves, and so they fail to love daughters of men, sons of man. So when you fall, you're not risen. You fall like a downfall. You fall in love. So in truth, we shouldn't fall in love, but mainly you should be risen to love, like a leader who rises to power. So yeah, and I'll read from those texts, but it was 13 tablets. 13 is a very significant number. The Last Supper, and to the Jews or Hebrews and Christians, the Last Supper, there's 13. 12 disciples, like 12 houses in the zodiac, and the 13th is Jesus, the Son, who sits in the middle. 13 to in Judaism is when the young boy can practice the bar mitzvah. 13 to a Mayan is when they said that the apocalypse would occur. 13 to those who practice Islam is when they have the lunar calendar. So 13 you always have to watch for. They use that number a lot in movies like Friday the 13th, etc. Read in Corinthians, it states that there was a saint named Paul who had deemed that women had to cover their hair while they were in the presence of the church. But instead of people believing or seeing this as a deliberate sign to defame or degrade a woman, they would have to look further and study deeper. Because if you don't know about the old religious womanhoods and the priestesses and the secrets and the myths of woman, you don't look further and understand why. The reason St. Paul had this particular belief was because of their hair, right? He believed that their hair could lure, entice, tempt, and deceive the angels who came down, who fell. Remember I told you about falling in love? Now, and bringing balance, remember balance is the astral sign relative to the Libras, the scales, balancing reason. I didn't want no woman to take offense to these words, so I would show them the teachings that they too were taught, which are similar to those concepts taught in the Bible about sons of God, not mixing with daughters of men. Well, in Egypt, there were 13 scripts, 13 scrolls, which were said to have belonged to the Essene Brotherhood, which if you look at them, they were similar to those from Israel or those from Egypt. There's similarities in the ways of them and their teachings. But there are 13 books. Why is it 13? 13 is an important number. But I'm going to read to you what these scripts say. All right, so here's a photo of those 13 scrolls that were found hidden in caves and taverns by archaeologists, which spoke on the daughters of gods. Now listen close to those words. Not daughters of men. Those are two different things. Like in the book of Genesis, the sons of God and the sons of men were two different things. But I'm going to read to you the teachings that was preserved and taught to the women. And these scrolls read that wise men of old gave the soul a feminine name. Indeed, she is female in her nature as well, And she even has her womb. And as long as she was alone with the father, she was a virgin and in form androgynous. Androgynous means, the concept of the male and the female godship together. Andro is the male, like android. Genus comes in language. You can find it in ancient Greek language as gena or gene, which means female. And it reads, but when she fell down into this body and came to this life, then she fell into the hands of many robbers, aka she fell in love. So these are ancient scrolls thousands of years ago speaking on the concept of falling in love. And so when you fall in love, you're usually blinded by a spouse, husband, or wife who are really not of a benefit to you. But let's keep reading on. It says that she fell into the hands of many robbers, and the wanton creatures passed her from one to another, and some made use of her by force, while others did so by seducing her with a gift. And in short, they defiled her and her virginity. And it reads that she prostituted herself and gave herself to one and all, like the sons of God who took all the women and married them. It reads that even when she turns her face from those adulterers, she runs to others and they compel her to live with them and render service to them upon their bed as if they were her masters. And out of shame, she no longer dares to leave them, whereas they deceive her for a long time, pretending to be faithful, true husbands, as if they greatly respected her. And after all this, they just abandon her and they go. Now listen close to these words. It says, you prostituted yourself to the sons of Egypt, those who are your neighbors, men great of flesh. But what does sons of Egypt mean? What does men of great flesh mean? Thousands of years ago, this is what these ancient writings are saying. I mean, this language looks like a cross between glyphs or hermetics. But it makes that distinction. It says, you fell for the sons of Egypt, but you are a daughter of a god. You don't mix with sons of Egypt because they're going to abandon you and use you. Remember the analogy I gave you about the ways of sons of man and sons of God? Well, this has been foretold to the women thousands and thousands of years ago. And so in short, what I'm saying is that when you fall, when the women had to wear the cover for their hair, it was because they had so much power they could lure the angels with their hair, so they have to wear a veil. Because the old priests believed that they could summon or attract down the angels, the sons of God. And then they would deceive the sons of God because they were daughters of men. And so it's no different today. If you look at the power that a woman has to lure a man and magnetically draw them to her with their figure, sexuality, their hair, their beauty, if they could draw in the sons of gods, how much power do you think they have over the sons of men? And so when you have these two different beings, these two different races, you want to preserve them. Example, if you look at the evolution of the so-called pre-man, the Neanderthal, Cro-Magnons, if they walk this earth today, you wouldn't want your daughter mixing with them. You wouldn't want your son mixing with the cave women and the cave men. And this is the same teachings that you have here, written thousands of years ago.